Welcome everyone to History Happy Hour, bringing lights to Idaho's winter nights with the Idaho Botanical Garden. My name is Allison Espindola. I'm the Events and Rentals Coordinator here at the Idaho State Museum. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. The Idaho State Historical Society, which includes the Idaho State Museum, the State Historic Preservation Office, the Idaho State Archives, and the Old Idaho Penitentiary and Historic Sites, is dedicated to preserving and promoting Idaho history through programming like tonight and also on-site visits. For those of you that are new or newer to History Happy Hour, this is a monthly virtual program that connects you, our visitor, with community members and experts around the state to talk about history, tradition, preservation, and so much more. So to learn more about History Happy Hour and other events at the Idaho State Museum, you can follow us on social media, or you can visit our website at history.idaho.gov. So tonight, this is the last History Happy Hour for 2021, and we are going to be talking about the history of the bright and beautiful Winter Garden Aglow at the Idaho Botanical Garden. But before we jump into this conversation with our panelist, Eric Walle, I do have a question for those of you joining us tonight, and that is, what is your favorite end of the year tradition? So if you can open up that chat and share with me and our panelists what it is that you love to do in December. Go ahead and type that in there. While you're typing away, I do also want to let you know that this chat is where you can put your questions throughout the night. At the end of the conversation, I will read your questions to Eric for his answers. And I will do my hardest my best to get all of your questions answered while we're here together tonight. Let's see what people have in mind. Oh, fantastic. There are some Winter Garden Aglow attendees. I had a feeling that might show up on someone's list this evening. Wonderful. Hot apple cider, that sounds delicious. Thank you for everyone that's typing in. I have a nice little list of things to do this December now, but let's go ahead and jump into it. I do want to introduce our panelist tonight, Eric Walle. Eric received his bachelor's in history from the University of New Mexico, and with an extensive professional experience and in marketing and program management, Eric joined the Idaho Botanical Garden in 2021 as the event director. So he brings his passion for the history of the Idaho Botanical Garden and its events to the staple of the Treasure Valley. So thank you so much for being here tonight, Eric. I really appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, and can you start this conversation off tonight and share with me and the audience a little bit of the history of the Idaho Botanical Garden?
Sure. The Idaho Botanical Garden was founded in 1984. It was the brainchild of a Boise botanist named Christopher Davidson. Christopher Davidson grew up here in Boise, and he returned from his doctorate studies in Malaysia. And when he came back, he really wanted to find a site that he could teach and have horticultural studies and educational programs at. There obviously wasn't a botanical garden in Boise at the time. Several sites were looked at, including several of the local bigger parks along the riverfront. He pulled together a board of directors that were kind of a group of like civic leaders and business people. They searched and eventually landed on the property adjacent to the old pen, which was state property, still is state property. And so what they did is that land south of the old pen had been laying dormant for the last 10 years. The prison had closed in 73. This was 1984. So they struck up a lease with the state for 33 acres of land here. And I believe that lease goes through 2071. And so essentially it started off with just, I think, meditation, rose garden, and an herb garden. and has expanded every couple of years since then. I think we're on the third iteration. We're beginning the third iteration of our master plan now, and there's about 15 developed acres that we have that are cultivated. So that leaves us some room to grow, obviously. And a lot of the cool things, one of the cool things that I really like about the garden is that we do have that shared history with the Historical Society and the old pen, and a lot of our buildings that we utilize now to run the garden are part of that history. And we work and run a lot of operations out of those buildings, and it's something I really like to that's a cool experience for me. Obviously, I'm more into the history element than I am the horticulture or botanical element. I don't know that much about plants. I can tell you that Jack Simplot planted the first red oak in the garden. And I can point out some of the plants and that sort of thing, but I'm much more boned up on the history of the place and the old pen history in particular. Yeah, and so that sort of brings us to kind of like the current with the 15 cultivated acres. I actually don't know how many permanent staff people we have, but I would surmise it's 20 in that area. We have a lot of part-time and temporary staff as well that work in the garden in the spring and summer and fall. And then our staff gets a little smaller in the winter, and then we move into Winter Garden Aglow.
Well, it sounds you are the perfect person then to be joining us this evening to talk history about the garden and Winter Garden Aglow. And that does lead really nicely into my next question, because when I think about garden, I think about spring, summer, maybe fall, but definitely not winter. So how did this whole thing come about? You know, what role does Winter Garden Aglow play for the Idaho Botanical Garden?
Sure. Yeah, it's a little weird to have what amounts to our largest event in the middle of winter when we're a garden, but it's actually super common. If you look around the country, and a lot of times at organizations that are in colder parts of the country, zoos, botanical gardens, arboretums, they do tend to have some sort of like light or holiday show and use those as fundraisers. Ours was the brainchild of Rod Burke, who was our head horticulturalist in 1997. And I'm sure he saw, this type of event happening somewhere else and decided that it would be a good idea for the garden as well. But so the first Winter Garden Aglow started in 1997 with 15,000 lights. It moved to 100,000 lights by the year 2000, and we've continued to add on ever since. I think this year we're at close to 550,000 lights. And the role that it plays for the garden is obviously it's a great community event, and it feels good, and it's really fun to celebrate the holidays at the garden. But it's also our biggest fundraiser. One of the misconceptions, I think, of our garden in general is that since we do operate on state property, that we receive state funding or funding from the government, which we don't. And so we rely really on our events, the goodness of the hearts of donors, general admission for throughout the year, our educational programs. We have all these things that bring revenue to the garden and allow us to keep growing the garden and continue those programs that we can offer the community. This particular event this year goes 28 nights. In that time, we'll probably have about 35,000 people pass through. It is our biggest fundraiser of the year and accounts for more than a quarter of our operational budget each year. So for us, it's a really, really important event and one that we need to make successful each year.
That does make sense. I can see where there is that benefit of having such a big event during a season when the plants aren't necessarily taking up the focus of everybody's attention.
Yeah,
very
for sure.
Interesting. Well, before I move on to my next question, I have another one I'm throwing out to the audience. So really quickly, for the audience joining us tonight, I have a question for all of you, and it's a poll. So I'm going to pop up a poll to find out what other topics you might be interested in learning and talking about. So hopefully it popped up on your screen. Go ahead and answer away. If you don't see it, if you have something else that you are interested in hearing about, other people, other topics, other places, Please also put those in the chat. That chat is a great place for questions. So as a reminder, questions for Eric, pop them in that chat and I will read them to him after our conversation tonight. Oh my gosh, fantastic. So many good things. We're tied right now with a lot of great, obviously outdoor Idaho is a popular thing right now. I can see where that's happening. Oh, but local authors, artists, musicians is kind of taking the lead. I love it. All right, I'm going to leave it open for just a second more. Oh, fantastic. All right, well, let's go ahead and move along. If you didn't have a chance to answer the poll or take the poll, please go ahead in that chat at any point tonight. What are there things you want to talk about? Pop it in that chat room. All right, so back to you, Eric. This is the 25th anniversary of Winter Garden Aglow, so that's a pretty big deal. I would love to hear about what it looks like this year, and when people come and visit, what can they expect to see?
So this year, like last year, it's a little bit different than it's been in the past. It's a little bit less of a free-for-all. We do have a fixed path one way around the garden. It is longer this year than it was last year. We have more lights. We have a longer entry tunnel. We built an LED forest in Outlaw Field of trees there, that most of which we got from a really generous donation earlier this summer. Let's see, we have back this year, we're serving, this is kind of tradition of the event, we give out complimentary cookies and hot chocolate. We have 5 to 6 vendors there for food and drinks each night. What else we have? On Friday and Saturdays, we have Lost Grove Brewing. They serve beer and wine. They do some mulled wine and cider and some hot adult cocoa as well. And so we have a soundtrack that Light FM 107.9 puts together for us that keeps 3.5 hours of music going every night to keep everybody in the spirit. And this year, like, I don't know if you've seen the past pictures as we scrolled through those. And I think that one thing about our light show compared to the past and compared to others is just how artfully it's all put together. It really isn't stringing lights, from limb to limb. If you look at the pictures, you see the shapes of trees and the shapes of objects, and it takes a lot of hours to put that stuff together. And we're really careful about it. And this year, I think it's the best it's ever been. It's like a completely stellar light show. It has some different elements than it has in the past. And we're really proud of it and have really gotten great feedback on it so far.
And you did share with me earlier about when you start putting this all together, and that kind of blew my mind. Can you talk a little bit about the process of setting this all up?
Sure. Yeah. For our visitors, Winter Garden Aglow is a month-long thing, but for us, it's a 5.5-month-long project. We start planning the layout in the electric distro plan in August. This year, we started actually hanging lights on September 6th. And we hang lights right up until we open. And we usually open it on Thanksgiving Day. So yeah, it takes a lot of hours. We're pretty fortunate in that we have our operations manager, our event operations manager, coordinator named Cato. He's been doing this for 13 years, so he knows the drill. He's also super careful about how the lights are put up, and he gets upset if you don't do it exactly the right way. So we have a really good person in charge who's making sure the standards stay high. We utilize a lot of labor from the East Boise Community Reentry Center, which is our neighbor across the street. It's a work release prison for women. We offer those women positions year round, but especially during Winter Garden Aglow setup. And so we have at any given time 6 to 8 women from that center working for us during Winter Garden Aglow, and they do actually a majority of the work that it takes. We do also have several volunteer groups that come in from local organizations. And we work also with a different outside organization that sets up our Illumicone, which is an interactive light display that's been designed by a bunch of local artists and tech workers. And, it's a really cool thing, but we will finish taking those lights down in mid-February. So essentially you're looking at kind of, late August through beginning of February for us. And yeah, it's a lot. We have, there's a lot of cool like factoids I can give you if you want to hear them about the technical details of the event are pretty fun.
I think it's so fascinating. I think it's really interesting to know, there's so much care, so much thought, there's many community members that come together to create this experience that people can go and enjoy and walk through. And, having been there, when you walk through it, you don't necessarily know that,
Yeah.
You see these fantastic lights and you don't know that cone was, an artist's creation. That's so neat.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. We talk about if, somebody might not notice it because it happens like that every year, but they would notice it if it changed. And we do really take a lot of care in how we arrange the lights and put them up. And we try to change almost every tree's color, and we try to have a color theme each year that changes annually. And yeah, it's just, we also have the good fortune of having a really great volunteer staff. So, when you come, this is it's an out of the car walk around experience. It's very traditional in the sense that, everything we do it's a little bit of a throwback event. But we feel like, especially now, like that kind of thing is very desirable, and we're really proud of how it turned out this year.
Yeah, as you should be.
Thanks.
And you alluded to this a little bit earlier about some changes, and then you chatted about, just now about how some people might be upset about some things that change. But are there any insider secrets or kind of insights that you can share with us, about the future for the Idaho Botanical Garden or Winter Garden Aglow?
Sure. I don't know how much I can share, but there are some really exciting things happening with the garden. Yeah, like I said before, we're kind of going through the latest iteration of our master plan. We work with an organization out of Fort Collins, Colorado, that's helped design a lot of Arboretum's, botanical gardens, public spaces, and even a lot of corporate spaces around the country. And they've been working on this now for, I think, the better part of the last year. We've seen kind of the final versions of it. And what it really will do is we'll bring the garden up to kind of modern standards. But as I said before, we only have 15 cultivated acres out of 33. This master plan, assuming it all comes to fruition, will really take us to all but 2 of those acres will be developed in the future. And it's just one of the big issues that we have at the garden is we don't have a good separation of event space and public visitor space. And those 2 things often collide and hurt the experience for both. And so moving forward, we'll have a much better entryway that will really cater to alternative transportation as well as not just auto drivers. And we'll have a separate entry for our event space and 2 new event spaces as well. We'll keep Outlaw Field as that is a tried and true winner for us for live concert events, which if all goes well are coming back this upcoming season. And it really will, this build out really it includes a lot more touchy feely kind of experiences that will, I think, be a lot more inclusive for a more diverse population as Boise grows. And I do really think when you look at this master plan, it's so amazing that I really think rather than just being a destination that people find out about when they get to Boise, we'll become a destination that brings people to the city. I think it's that good. And like just that, it's really cool and unique to see And it'll be a phase by phase build out. And now starts the really hard part, of putting forth a capital campaign to raise the funds to actually start the first phase. But I think once the first phase starts, that capital campaign will get a lot easier when you're able to see like actually what's going on. I wish I could share the image of the plan. It's so good that really all of us here can't believe how cool it'll be.
And being a history buff, knowing kind of the history of the garden, this master plan, do you see it kind of complementing where the vision started to where it's going?
I think so. Not having been here, I couldn't say for sure, but the focus of the garden will always be, our mission is cultivate, educate, celebrate. And I think, those first two are really the key points of the mission. Like, we need to keep the garden growing and looking beautiful, but ultimately it's a place for education and study. And that's, keeping a really nice space so that we can keep offering our adult education, our kids' education, camps, field trips, the type of stuff that I think the community at large really appreciates. Being on the event side of things, like, we're really there. We're the celebrate part, more or less. But, since we do rely so much on funding from the public, those events keep all those other programs going strong. And so I don't think that the mission that we have now or moving forward is any different than the original. It's just bigger and bolder. And just, yeah, it's like a little more just like daring and creative than it was in the past.
Fantastic, thank you. And we've had a bunch of questions come in from the audience. So I do want to make sure we have some time to get into those tonight.
Sure.
The first question that came in was about passes specifically. They had some passes from Winter Garden Aglow that don't have an expiration date on them. Are they still good?
If they're this year's, I guess, if they aren't timestamped, then I would have to say no, because everything for this year should have a timestamped date on it. We do run on, hourly entries. So unfortunately, unless you have a specific date and time on your ticket, the kiosk is going to wonder where that came from. There are tickets floating out there that aren't timestamped. We do float tickets to nonprofit organizations or other partner organizations that we work with throughout the year that are also serving the community. But at the end of the day, like, this is our biggest fundraiser and we do run as a nonprofit. So we would hope you'd buy tickets. I know that's not the answer anybody was looking for.
But it was an answer, and that is what we're looking for tonight.
Oh, that's good.
There was also another comment. So this is another one to put you on the spot with.
Okay.
They miss the trains. They get questions about it from their grandkids.
Yeah, so the trains is an interesting one. We would love to have the trains too. And we have worked with the organization that brings the trains for years. And we had them at a few events earlier this year. We had them at a couple of our fall harvest days. And I believe we had them back for Bug Day. But those, unfortunately, most of the gentlemen that run those trains are getting on the older side. So they have kind of opted out of sitting in 25-degree weather for 3.5 hours for a month, unfortunately. And I did try to talk them into coming to a couple just select nights. And for one reason or another, either stuff that we had going on or they had going on, it didn't end up working. I have to be honest and say that the train future at Winter Garden Aglow is in question. And maybe somebody else will sort of like carry the torch of the trains, but as it stands, it's really hard to get them to come out to cold events.
I don't blame him. I am not a cold weather person myself.
Yeah, it's been really mild this year. The train guys would have loved it.
There is another question that came in. It was based off something that you said. What is Bug Day?
Oh, Bug Day is an event that was founded by Elizabeth Dickey, who is our education director. I think she's on watching now. And it's basically a celebration of bugs, insects, and it's geared toward children. It's definitely an educational day. It happens in the third week of August every year. We have tons of organizations that come in with educational programs to teach kids about bugs. It's basically trying to connect children with nature and teach them that bugs are a beneficial part of the natural world and not just something to be squashed. But it's a fun event. We get a ton of people in every year. We had live music this year, and the train guys were there, and the train guys actually decorate their trains with all sorts of bug things, which is kind of cool. But it's an event that we've been hosting for a long time, and it continues to be a success. And it's something that I'm sure we'll do into the sort of indefinite future.
Very cool. I know there's some other folks joining us tonight that are very pro bug and friendly. So yay.
Everything but mosquitoes.
Perfect. Well, before we wrap up tonight, we have just a couple more minutes together. Is there any other final comments or anything else that you would like to share with me and the audience this evening?
No, I would just, as a plug for Winter Garden Aglow and the garden is just, I feel like the garden offers amazing things to the community. Winter Garden Aglow is one of those things. It's better than it's ever been this year. And my plug would be come out and support the garden and come see it. It's amazing. And I think the experience that we're offering is a really, really good one.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for those of you that are joining us tonight. Thank you so much to Eric Walle for all of the information that you shared with us. That was such a great time.
You're welcome.
The Idaho State Museum is committed to providing opportunities like this for you, our visitor, while at home or at one of our sites. And really the way that we do that is finding out about you and what you were looking for and what you were interested in. So in the chat, we just threw in a link to a quick survey if you want to take it now, or you can wait for tomorrow. There'll be an email that'll come to you tomorrow. That'll also have a link to learn more about Winter Garden Aglow and get your time ticket for this year. So please make sure you keep an eye out for that as well. For up-to-date information, such as our next History Happy Hour, which mark your calendars January 12th, or how to become a member, or to sign up for our newsletter, please visit our website at history.idaho.gov. And of course, you can always stay up to date on our social media pages as well. But thank you again for everyone who joined us tonight. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a great night. And hopefully we see you at Winter Garden Aglow soon as well. Bye.